All right, so looking at number 1, where do we start? So we graph our y-intercept first, and that's 3. And then what's our slope? 8 over 5. So I would go up 8 and to the right 5, or I can go down 8. I'm going to go down 8 just so I have more room, and over 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my graph goes this way. Do I have a solid line or a dotted line? Solid line. Now I need to figure out where I'm going to shade. So what do I do next? I can plug in any point. I'm going to use 0, 0 just because it's the easiest to work with. So I have 0 is greater than or equal to 8 over 5 times 0 plus 3. So 0 is greater than or equal to 3. Is this true? No. So do I shade where 0, 0 is or where it's not? Where it's not. So that would be on the other side over here. And that's it. So this one's a little tricky. What type of line do we have when it's x equals? But it's going to be a vertical line. So it's this way. And it goes through 0. So it's kind of hard to tell when it's at 0. But if it was like, let's say x is equal to 2. I would go to where x is 2 and put a vertical line down there. Because if I put it horizontal, then it doesn't really matter where I put that point. So x is equal to is a vertical line. And it's solid because it's greater than or equal to. So now this goes through 0, 0, so I have to pick a different point. So what point can I pick?
1, 1.
I could pick 1, 1. That's here. So I'm going to put 1, 1. So 1 is x and 1 is y. I don't have a y to plug into, so it's just I'm plugging in x. So x, 1 is greater than or equal to 0. Is this true? Yeah, so am I going to shade on the right side or the left side? The right side. I shade where that 1, 1 point is. So I'm shading over here. Any questions here? All right, next one. What do I start? Put that point, -2. And what's my slope? -1 over 1. All right, so I'm going to go down 1 and to the right 1. Do I have a solid line or a dotted line? Dotted line. So I'm going to put a dotted line through these points. Now what point should I test to shade? 0, 0. So 0 is less than -0 minus 2. So 0 is less than -2. Is this true? Nope. So where am I going to shade? Below. I shade where 0, 0 is not. So that's over here. Any questions? Number 4. Where do I start? -4. What's my slope? So I go up 1 and to the right 3. So I have a solid line or dotted line? Dotted line. Now what point should I test to shade? 0, 0. So I'm going to plug in 0 for x and 0 for y. So 0 is greater than 1/3 times 0 minus 4. Is 0 greater than -4? Yes. So where am I going to shade? Above. Over here. Any questions here? All right, next page. What's my y-intercept? 2. So put a point at 2. What's my slope? 2 over 1. So I go up 2 to the right 2. Solid line or dotted line? Solid. And then I'm going to pick 0, 0 to test. So I plug in 0 for x and 0 for y. So 0 is less than or equal to 2. Is this true? So where am I going to shade? To the right. I shade where that point 0, 0 is. So over here. Any questions? All right, number 6. What's my y-intercept? 0. And what's my slope? So I go up 1 to the right 4. Solid line or dotted line? Dotted line. What point can I pick to test? Can I pick 0, 0 here? Nope, because my graph is on 0, 0, so I have to pick something else. I can pick 1, 1. That's going to be above my line. So just make sure whatever point you pick, it's not on the line. So I plug in 1 for x and 1 for y. So 1 is greater than 1/4 times 1. So 1 is greater than 1/4. Is this true? Yeah. So where am I going to shade? Above. Up here. So for absolute value, we have to figure out what number we want as our middle number to test. And then we need a number smaller and a number bigger. So what should our middle number be here? So we always take what's inside the bars and flip the sign. So our middle number we want to be positive 2. What's a number smaller than positive 2? And what's a number bigger than positive 2? 3. So let's plug those in. So I have the absolute value of 1 minus 2. What's 1 minus 2? Negative 1. And what's the absolute value of negative 1? 1. So my point here is 1, comma 1. So I go the right 1, up 1. Next I plug in 2. So I have 2 minus 2. What's 2 minus 2? 0. So I plugged in 2 and got 0. So I go the right 2, stay on 0. And then lastly I plug in 3. So 3 minus 2? 1, which is 1. And 3 comma 1 is our point. So we go to the right 3, up 1. Do I have a solid V or a dotted V here? A dotted V. Remember, when you have absolute value graphs, your graphs are always, 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 always going to be in the shape of a V. Now I'm either going to shade inside the V or outside the V. So how do I pick a point to shade? Let's plug in 0, 0. So 0, 0 is right here. I have 0 is greater than 0 minus 2. So 0 is greater than the absolute value of negative 2. What's the absolute value of negative 2? 2. So is 0 greater than 2? Yes. Is 0 greater than 2? No. So am I going to shade inside or outside the V? Inside. I shade where 0, 0 is not, so that's inside here. Any questions? All right, number 8. What is my middle number going to be? Awesome. We take whatever's inside the bars and flip the sign. So that would be negative 1 for my middle number. And then what's a number smaller than negative 1? Negative 2, and bigger than negative 1? 0. So I have the absolute value of negative 2 plus 1 minus 4. So just like your order of operations, PEMDAS, we have to follow those here too. Do what's inside the brackets first. So what's negative 2 plus 1? Negative 1. What's the absolute value of negative 1? And what's 1 minus 4? Negative 3. So I plugged in negative 2 and got negative 3. So I'm going to go to my graph, go to the left to negative 2 and down 3. Next I plug in negative 1. So I have negative 1 plus 1 minus 4. What's negative 1 plus 1? 0. And 0 minus 4? Negative 4. So I go to the left to negative 1 and down to negative 4. Then I plug in 0. So I have 0 plus 1 minus 4. What's 0 plus 1? 1. And 1 minus 4? negative 3. So I plugged in 0 and got negative 3. So stay on 0, go down to negative 3. Do I have a solid V or dotted V? Solid. So solid V. Now I need to figure out where I'm going to shade. So what can I plug in? 0, 0. That's in my V. So I have 0, 0, 0 for x and 0 for y. 0 is less than or equal to 0 plus 1 minus 4. So 0 is less than or equal to, I plugged in 0 here and got negative 3, so I know it's going to be negative 3, because this would be 1 minus 4, which is negative 3. Is 0 less than negative 3? No. So am I going to shade outside or inside the V? Outside. So there's my graph for number 8. Any questions? What's the absolute value of negative 1? 1. And what's 1 minus 1? 0. So negative 1 comma 0. Go to the left to negative 1, stay on 0. Now I plug in 0. What's 0 minus 1? So my point here is 0, negative 1. So stay on 0, go down to negative 1. And then I plug in 1. What's 1 minus 1? 0. So I plugged in 0. I plugged in 1 and got 0. So go to the right 1, stay on 0. Do I have a solid V or dotted V here? Solid V. And what point can I plug in to test? I can plug in 0, 0, because that's not on my V, it's in there. So I have 0 is greater than or equal to 0 minus 1. So 0 is greater than or equal to, what's 0 minus 1? Is 0 greater than or equal to negative 1? Is this true? Yes. So where am I going to shade? Inside or outside? Inside. Because 0, 0 is inside, so I shade inside. Alright, so what's my middle number going to be? Awesome, negative 4. Because I have a plus 4 on the inside, so I just changed the sign to negative 4. What's a number smaller than negative 4? And a number bigger than negative 4? Negative 3. So let's plug in negative 5. Negative 5 plus 4 plus 3. What's negative 5 plus 4? And what's the absolute value of negative 1? And 1 plus 3? 4. So I plugged in negative 5 and got 4. So go to the left to negative 5 and up 4. Next I plug in negative 4. So negative 4 plus 4. And 0 plus 3. So I plugged in negative 4 and got 3. So go left to negative 4, up 3. Then I plug in negative 3. Negative 3 plus 4?
4.
And 1 plus 3? 4. So negative 3 comma 4. Do I have a solid V or dotted V? Dotted V. What number can I plug in to test? 0, 0, which is here, so it's outside. So I have 0 is less than 0 plus 4 plus 3. 0 plus 4 is 4. What's the absolute value of 4?
4.
And 4 plus 3?
7.
Is 0 less than 7?
Yes.
Yes. So where am I going to shade?
Down.
I shade outside the V, because that's where the 0, 0 is. So out here. What should my middle number be? 0. Because in my absolute value bars, I don't have anything besides x, so it's just 0. What's a number smaller than 0? and bigger than 0? So let's plug in -1. What's the absolute power, absolute value of 1? -1. 1. And 1 plus 3? 4. So I plugged in -1 and got 4. So I go to the left to -1 and up 4. So here's my first point. Next I plug in 0. So 0 plus 3. So I plugged in 0 and got 3. So stay on 0, go up 3. Next I plug in 1. What's 1 plus 3? 4. So I plugged in 1 and got 4. So go to the right one, up 4. Do I have a solid V or dotted V? Dotted V. Oops. Dotted V. Brock, what number can I plug in to test? To see where I shade. 0, 0. So 0 is greater than 0 plus 3. Is 0 greater than 3? No. So where am I going to shade? Inside the V. Shade where 0, 0 is not. So that would be inside. Number 12. What is my middle number? 4. Because inside here, I have -4. So I want my middle number to be +4. What's a number smaller than 4? And a number bigger than 4? 5. So let's plug in 3. What's 3 minus 4? And what's the absolute value of -1? So I plugged in 3 and got 1. So I go to the right to 3 and up 1. Next I plug in 4. So I have 4 minus 4, which is 0. So 4, 0. Go to the right 4, stay on 0. And last I plug in 5. What's 5 minus 4? 1. So 5, 1 is my last point. Go to the right 5, up 1. Do I have a solid V or dotted V? Solid V. What number can I pick to shade? 0, 0. So I have 0 that I'm plugging in for x, and for y, 0 is less than or equal to 0 minus 4. What's 0 minus 4? What's the absolute value of -4? +4. Is 0 less than 4? Yes, so where am I going to shade? Inside or outside? This works, so I shade where 0, 0 is, which is outside. Any questions from the homework?